The board will now come to order. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderwoman Schweitzer. Alderman Oldenburg. Alderman Cone. Alderman Narayan. Alderman Balmer. Alderwoman Velazquez. Alderwoman Sanye. Alderwoman Spencer. Alderman Browning. Alderwoman Keys. I'm sorry, Alderwoman Clark Hubbard. Alderwoman Keys. Alderwoman Tyus.
Present.
Alderwoman Boyd.
Present.
Alderman Aldridge.
Present.
President Green.
Present.
Alderman Cone. Alderwoman Velazquez. Alderwoman Spencer. 12 present, you have quorum.
A quorum being present, we will be led in opening reflection and prayer by St. Louis County Councilwoman and Paraquad Board Member, the Honorable Kelly Dunaway.
Thanks, everybody. It's an honor to be here today to share a reflection about what it's like for me to live with a disability. I have 20 minutes, right? Just kidding. So I'd like to start out by letting you all know that I wasn't born this way. I was in a car accident when I was 17 that left me paralyzed from the waist down. When I woke up in the hospital, I didn't remember anything about the accident, but I was told by a doctor that I would spend the rest of my life in a wheelchair. I did not take that news well, and for those of you that know me well, a flurry of really bad words I won't repeat here followed. In the years since, there have been many, in fact, there have been many decades. I have seen a lot. I've learned what it's like to be discriminated against. I've felt open hostility just for showing up in a space that I'm not welcome in. And I can viscerally feel people's discomfort when I talk about what it's like to live with a disability, including those people in my own family. But what I really want to talk to you, a room full of policymakers, about are some of the hazards that I experience on a day-to-day basis and some of the attitudes that I see out in the world. So, rain is terrible for me. Those metal grates, my cane slips, I go down. Snow, I don't even leave my house. The Cheesecake Factory floor, a hazard no matter which cheesecake factory in the world you are in. Stairs, you may have seen I had to have Jay's help getting up the stairs to get onto the stage. Little things that I used to take for granted and can no longer are things that you as policymakers can also see in your day-to-day. Revolving doors, that's like every time I have to walk into those, I'm terrified that the person in front of me or behind me is going to push so hard and fast that I'm flying around like this. When you see somebody with a disability, hold the door open instead of letting it fall in their face, as often happens to me. And when you're on public transportation and you're sitting in the seat underneath the blue wheelchair, get up. That seat's for me, not you. So that's some of the hazards. Now I want to talk just for one more minute about some of the attitudes I experience in the United States of America versus what I experience pretty much anywhere else in the world. I'll start with Paris because it's a favorite of mine. A few years ago, I was standing in a really long queue at the Louvre. I already had my ticket, so it wasn't like I was going to have to wait in that ticket in another line. But I'm just standing there with my friend, and this man in a uniform and a badge comes up. Madame, madame, come, come. I follow him around the side of the Louvre and into the secret back entrance. For you, for you. No wait. I walk onto a bus, a train. 4 people get up and offer me their seat. When I'm trying to lug a bag up a metro stop that doesn't have stairs, some random stranger takes my bag and carries it to the top and sets it down and waits for me to get up the stairs. In America, I am treated with hostility. Overseas, in Europe, in the Middle East, in North Africa, I'm treated like a human, like disability is a natural part of human design and human experience. And as policymakers, I would invite all of you to think about my hazards, not just mine, but other people with disabilities, and attitudes that we encounter every day when you're thinking about the decisions that you're making and the votes that you're casting and how you are deciding where dollars get spent. Thank you very much.
We will dispense with the regular order of business to take up the courtesy resolution calendar. Alderwoman from the 10th, you are recognized on the motion to suspend the rules for the purposes of introducing courtesy resolutions 93, 94, and 95.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. I move that we suspend the rules for the purpose of introducing courtesy resolutions 93, 94, and 95.
It's been moved by the Alderwoman from the 10th, seconded by the Alderman from the 14th, that we suspend the rules for the purposes of introducing courtesy resolutions number 93, 94, and 95. This is a non-debatable motion. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderwoman Schweitzer, Alderman Aldenberg, Alderman Cone, Alderman Narayan, Alderman Balmer, Alderwoman Velazquez, Alderwoman Sanye, Alderwoman Spencer, Alderman Browning, Alderwoman Clark Hubbard, Alderwoman Keys, Alderwoman Tyus, Alderwoman Boyd, Thank you. Alderman Aldridge. President Green.
Aye.
Alderman Cone. Alderwoman Velazquez. Alderwoman Tyus. 13 aye votes.
By your vote, you sustain the motion from the Alderwoman from the 10th. Madam Clerk, please place resolutions 93, 94, and 95 at the end of the courtesy resolution calendar.
So noted.
At this time, I would like to invite Alderwoman from the 8th to approach the dais along with her guests for the presentation on resolution number 95.
Good morning. Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. This morning, our order of the day is resolution number 95. Resolution 95 is a resolution recognizing the removal of some of our city's archaic and oppressive anti-abortion laws. This resolution I'm proud to have written in conjunction, in collaboration with our anti-abortion activists and women's rights protection community. With that, what I'd like to do, instead of just reading the resolution before you, what I'd like to do is introduce some of my special guests up here, starting with, maybe we can have everyone kind of, Margot, do you want to start? Sure. Okay. I'd like to turn over the microphone this morning to Margot.
Hi, good morning. Thank you for having us this morning. My name is Margot Riphagen. I am the Vice President of External Affairs at Planned Parenthood Great Rivers Action. And we're thrilled to be here this morning. With reproductive freedom and abortion on the ballot this November, it is more important than ever that our city code aligns with our city's values, and that we are protecting and expanding the right to reproductive freedom in anticipation of the vote in November, so that we can move forward with providing abortion in the state of Missouri. So thank you so much for your support today. We're thrilled to be here.
Thank you, Alderwoman Spencer, and every alderperson who has co-sponsored this accompanying board bill. My name is Maggie Olivia. I use she, her pronouns, and I am the policy manager for Abortion Action Missouri. We are just so thrilled to be here today. As many of you know, Missouri is currently under a total abortion ban with no exceptions. Even prior, Missourians have been forced to flee the state for years to access this critical care that is abortion care. And like Margot said, come later this year when Missourians vote to end the abortion ban and enshrine a broad right to reproductive freedom into the state constitution, it is imperative that our city is ready to welcome back these critical care providers that are abortion providers. And we're so thankful for the leadership of this body and being in step with the majority of St. Louisans who we know support access to abortion without political interference. Thank you again, Alderwoman Spencer.
I want to take a moment to recognize the number of folks up in the gallery this morning, the number of folks that have reached out to the alderpersons here. President Green and her office for helping to make sure that this was the order of the day this morning, to recognize the importance of this issue. The reason I didn't want to take too much time here at the dais, this issue is not about me. This issue is about the thousands of Missourians who collected signatures this year to put this issue on the ballot, to restore rights of Missourians to access to health care, to restore the rights of human beings to live with dignity. And this issue here at the Board of Aldermen to remove these laws from our books, passed here 2 weeks ago now unanimously by this legislative body, will hopefully send a signal to the rest of Missourians, to the rest of the nation, that we will not stand for oppressive, archaic laws on the books of any of our legislative bodies in any of our cities, and we will work together collaboratively and hopefully unanimously to address those issues and to remove those laws from our books. And with that, I'm really grateful and proud that this can be the order of the day today, the removal of archaic anti-abortion laws and our right to health care access here in the city of St. Louis.
Any further discussion? Alderwoman from the 6th.
Can't hear me. For bringing this resolution, I move that we pass this in bank.
It's been moved by the Alderwoman from the 6th, seconded by the Alderwoman from the 10th, that we make resolution number 95 in bank. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Resolution number 95 is now in bank, which means that every member of the Board of Aldermen has signed on in support. Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Well, personally, I want to thank you not just for coming today, but for your tireless work. Getting the signatures to put this on the ballot was no easy feat. And I'm glad that with the leadership of Alderwoman Spencer, we can be doing our part locally to make sure that when, not if, when we restore abortion rights in Missouri, that our local laws match our state laws. And just a side note, I spent the last 2 days at the Netroots conference, and I will say everybody is talking about Missouri. They are watching us and in awe of us by the number of signatures we are able to collect and by the fact that we are going to be successful in November. And we're going to show that even in the deep red Midwest, that people believe in abortion rights and that it is not this highly partisan issue that it has often been made to be. So all eyes are on Missouri, I think, in a really good way come November, but that would not be true without the support of all of you and the organizations that you work with. So thank you so much. All right. We can do a picture. Yeah. Anybody who would like to do a picture, please meet on the stairs. This morning, I got my Alderwoman from the 10th, you are recognized on the motion to adopt the courtesy resolution consent calendar.
Thank you, Madam President. Members of the board, I move that we adopt the courtesy resolutions consent calendar.
Is there a second? It's been moved by the Alderwoman from the 10th, seconded by the Alderwoman from the 1st, that we adopt the courtesy resolution consent calendar. Is there any discussion? Alderwoman from the 8th. Or not? No. It's been moved by the Alderwoman from the 10th, seconded by the Alderperson from the 1st, that we adopt the courtesy resolution consent calendar. Is there any discussion? Oh. What? Oh, sorry. I'm sorry, I don't know what's happening. Scratch that for the time being. We have one more courtesy resolution presentation. So if Alderwoman from the 8th would approach the dais for resolution 89. Okay.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. Resolution 89 is a resolution honoring the legacy and dedication of Jazz Granderson. Jazz Granderson was born on June 13, 1990, and is the son of Rain Harris and Johnny Granderson. And I have known Rain for how many years? A long time. And the passing of her son was just an enormous tragedy for her family, obviously, but for the entire St. Louis community. He was a member of the Kirkwood High School football team and led. Was a national champion in that regard, and was a football coach at DeSmet High School, where he was a football coach with a very, very good friend of mine for many years. And it was just, the passing of Jazz was an enormous tragedy. And myself, Alderwoman Shamim Clark-Hubbard, and many others were just recently recognizing his birthday, and with a beautiful balloon release. And at that point, we offered to recognize Jazz here as well, recognizing his life. Rain is also a city employee. She works in the NIS division and is just a dedicated person to our city, to our community. And it's with a great honor that we can take a moment this morning here and pause to recognizing the passing of a young man who made a big difference in our city. And I'd like to ask Ms. Rain if you'd like to make a word or two. You're welcome to now.
I would like to say thank you so very much to the city of St. Louis. I've worked for the city for a very long time. From the Board of Election to St. Louis City Police for 10 years, and now I'm a neighborhood improvement specialist. My son is dearly missed, and I appreciate you all. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Alderwoman from the 10th.
Thank you so much, and thank you, family, for continuing to keep Jazz's legacy alive this way. What's important, I think, for people to know is that you here have taken this pain, this constant pain, you and your beautiful daughter have had to bear, and we want to make sure that we speak that this was gun violence, that this was a violent action that was a very unwanted situation that he didn't have to be in, and most importantly, didn't deserve to be in. And while you could have turned your back on everything, on a city that you've given so much to, that took your baby, you have chosen to turn that pain into action as your family does, and showing up in advocacy everywhere. And we thank you for that. We honor that today. And I would like to ask if we can pass this resolution in back.
It's been moved by the Alderwoman from the 10th, seconded by the Alderwoman from the 7th, that we make 9 in bank. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Resolution 89 is now in bank. Alderwoman from the 11th.
As well, but I just want to commend you on your strength. And it is not lost on any of us the immeasurable pain that anyone who has lost a child, that you're able to get up every day and put on your clothes and walk out and still smile. And that truly takes a great amount of strength and faith. And I applaud you.
Any further discussion? Alderwoman from the 7th.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. Ms. Harris, we've had several conversations. We talk all the time. I know of your story, and I would echo, what my colleagues have said about turning your pain into power. But I would also echo that I look forward to the day when women don't have to be so strong that we have to bury our children. I look forward to the day when we have leaders who are as strong as mothers are, who have to bury their children, take strong stances, put common sense gun laws and restrictions into practice. So, I really commend you for your strength, but it also really breaks my heart because I wish this is not a strength that we had to have, but I have the utmost respect and admiration for you that, I'm sure you still deal with grief. Grief is an ongoing process. It doesn't go away. I'm sure you still miss your child every single day, but you get up every day and you serve your city and you figure out how we can turn it around and how we can create conditions so that it doesn't, happen to others. And I know you named a lot of your formal roles, but we both know even outside of those formal roles, you do a lot in your community outside of that. So I just wanted to commend you, honor you. Thank you for bringing this forward, Alderwoman Spencer, but also just say, I really look forward to the day when women don't have to be strong and bury our children, and when we have leaders who are in positions of power who will match our strength with strong policies to prevent this.
Alderman from the 14th.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. Ms. Harris, I've gotten to know you through my mom. I went back like 2 flats on the Cadillac. And during the time of just getting to know you, when you was running for office in the neighborhood, your commitment to the city goes deep. And I know when the situation happened to your son, and you had told me about it, I know that he may not be here, but you instilled so many positive qualities into him, and his legacy lives on through you and the family. And I just want to thank you for you and your family for your dedication and commitment of continuing to stay positive and continuing to try to make sure that his beautiful legacy and the great things that he did here in the city of St. Louis continue to live on. So my heart is with you and with your family, and just thank you for continuing to be a strong Black woman. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, we'll return to the approval of the courtesy resolutions consent calendar. It had been moved by the Alderwoman from the 10th, seconded by the Alderperson from the 1st, that we adopt the courtesy resolution consent calendar. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Thank you. Anyone for a picture back onto the steps? All right. Introduction of honored guests. Any introduction of honored guests? Alderwoman from the 11th.
Thank you, Madam President and members of the board. I had to leave early last Friday, and so I wasn't able to just honor some people that I wanted to make sure that I uplifted their names. So at the last Alderman meeting, which was at the end of June, which actually ended Pride Month, I wanted to just briefly take a moment to list those dear friends and family members of mine who are part of the LGBTQ plus community. I always joke with them and say, you're part of the alphabet mafia. And so Jesse Penley, Christopher Asensio, Peter Sims and his husband, James Vinkenberg, Kimberly Raphael Crawley, my cousin Daryl and his husband, Marcus Sanchez, Mark St. George and his husband, Jordan Elliott, and posthumously, my godfather, Anthony Warren. And so these people have played a very pivotal role in my life and in my upbringing, and I am grateful that they have passed through and for those who are still here. So I just wanted to honor them as my honored guests today, and thank you.
Any further introduction of honored guests? Any further introduction of honored guests?
I have one.
Alderwoman from the 10th.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. I would humbly like to ask for a moment of silence for a pillar, a giant in the community that we lost this week. If you didn't know who he was, I encourage you to now find out who, research and look into who he was and what he did in the community. This is none other than Dwayne D.T. Tolan, founder and the heart of Boys to Mentors, along with so many other men, the immeasurable impact that he made on young men in our city, county, and region will never, I don't believe it can be matched. And he was suddenly, it's a very sudden loss. So when you think about what that means to his family, his beloved fiance, Sonia, who their relationship played out in live for us and gave so many inspiration, and his children. But on top of that, again, the children that he touched through Boys to Mentors and other programs that he worked with as well. You would see him in the community everywhere with Annie Malone and countless other Charmed, countless other organizations. And so as we pray for him, his love, his legacy, his beautiful beloved fiance, Sonia, his children, and the community, family members, and loved ones that have to now endure this sudden loss, I would like to have a moment of silence, send our condolences, our prayers, let the family know that we are lifting them up, and continue a prayer and support for peace to be still.
We could please stand and bow our heads for a moment of silence.
Thank you.
Any further introduction of honored guests? Seeing none, Alderwoman from the 10th, you're recognized on the approval of the minutes from Friday, June 28, 2024.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. I move that we approve the minutes from Friday, June 28, 2024.
It's been moved by the Alderwoman from the 10th, seconded by the Alderwoman from the 7th, that we approve the minutes from Friday, June 28, 2024. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Report of city officials.
A report of city officials can be found in A, B, and C of the agenda and has been placed in the Google Drive for your review.
Anyone wish to take any bills or resolutions off of any of our informal calendar? Anyone wish to take any bills or resolutions off of any of our informal calendars? Seeing none, Alderwoman from the 7th, you are recognized on the suspension of the rules for the purposes of introducing Board Bill number 77.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. I would move to suspend the rules for the purposes of introducing Resolution 77.
Board Bill 77.
Sorry, Board Bill 77.
Second. It's been moved by the Alderwoman from the 7th, seconded by the Alderperson from the 3rd, that we suspend the rules for the purposes of introducing Board Bill 77. This is a non-debatable motion. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderwoman Schweitzer. Alderman Oldenburg. Alderman Cone. Aye. Alderman Narayan. Aye. Alderman Balmer. Alderwoman Velazquez. Alderwoman Sanier. Aye. Alderwoman Spencer. Alderman Browning. Alderwoman Clark Hubbard. Alderwoman Keys. Alderwoman Tyus. Alderwoman Boyd. Alderman Aldridge. President Green.
Aye.
Alderman Balmer. Alderwoman Tyus. Alderwoman Boyd. 14 aye votes.
By your vote, you sustain the motion from the Alderwoman from the 7th. Please place Board Bill number 77 at the end of the first reading of Board Bill.
So noted.
First reading of Board Bills.
Board Bill 65, introduced by Alderwoman Keys. An ordinance approving a redevelopment plan dated December 13th, 2022 for the Jeff Vanderloo Scattered Sites redevelopment area. Board Bill 66, sponsored by Alderwoman Clark Hubbard and President Green, an ordinance relating to Forest Park, recommended by the Board of Estimate and Apportion and the Board of Public Service, providing for the execution and delivery of an amended, restated maintenance cooperation agreement between the City of St. Louis and Forest Park Forever, Inc., amending Section 2 and 6 of Ordinance Number 61988, codified at Chapter 5.74.020 and Chapters 5.74.060, Section A, subsection 11 of the Revised Code of the City of St. Louis, containing an emergency clause. Board Bill 67, sponsored by Alderman Browning, pursuant to Ordinance Number 70333, as amended by Ordinance Number 71394, an ordinance directing the Director of Streets to install speed humps to calm the flow of traffic on various blocks in the 9th Ward. Board Bill 68, sponsored by Alderwoman Velazquez, pursuant to Ordinance Number 70333, as amended by Ordinance Number 71394, an ordinance directing the Director of Streets to install speed humps to calm the flow of traffic on the 2000 block of the 3900 39th Street, 2100 block of 39th Street, 3800 block of DeTonti Street, 900 block of Connecticut Avenue, 4000 block of Connecticut Avenue, 3500 block of Giles Avenue, 3100 block of Gurney Avenue, 3600 block of Gustine Avenue, 3700 block of Gustine Avenue, 4000 block of Hartford Street, 4000 block of Merrimack Street, 3100 block of Portis Avenue, and 4000 block of Wyoming Avenue. Board Bill 69, sponsored by Alderman Aldridge, President Green, and Alderwoman Velazquez, an ordinance authorizing the honorary street name of Michael O.D. Brown Way, pursuant to Ordinance Number 68937, which shall begin at the intersection of Tucker Boulevard and Clark Avenue and run north on Tucker Boulevard and to the intersection of Tucker and Market. Board Bill 70, sponsored by Alderman Cone, President Green, and Alderwoman Velazquez. An ordinance repealing Ordinance Number 68654, codified as Chapter 4.63 of the Revised Code of the City of St. Louis, and enacting in lieu thereof a new ordinance relating to the same subject matter. Board Bill 71, sponsored by Alderwoman Velazquez and President Green. An ordinance submitting to the qualified voters of the City of St. Louis a proposed amendment to the Charter of the City of St. Louis that adds a new Section 2A to Article 2 of the Charter of the City of St. Louis, providing for the election of a public advocate, and a new Section 13A of the Charter of the City of St. Louis, creating a new office of public advocacy and granting the public advocate certain authorities and duties, providing for an election to be held for voting on the proposed amendment for the manner of voting, and for the publication, certification, deposit, and recording of this ordinance containing a severability clause and an emergency clause. Board Bill 72, sponsored by Alderwoman Velazquez and President Green, an ordinance submitting to the qualified voters of the City of St. Louis a proposed amendment to the Charter of the City of St. Louis, amending Article 4 of the Charter and enacting a new section of Article 4 to remove municipal fine limits that are assessed for ordinance violations, providing for an election to be for voting on the proposed amendment, for the manner of voting, for the publication, certification, deposit, and recording of this ordinance containing an emergency clause. Board Bill 73, sponsored by Alderwoman Velazquez and President Green. An ordinance submitting to the qualified voters of the city a proposed amendment to the Charter of the City of St. Louis, repealing certain sections of Article 23 of the Charter and enacting a new section of Article 3, permitting the City of St. Louis to assign its special tax bills for a collection to the governmental and quasi-governmental agency, providing for election to be held for voting on the proposed amendment for the matter of voting and for the publication, certification, deposit, and recording of this ordinance containing an emergency clause. Board Bill 74, sponsored by Alderman Browning. An ordinance amending ordinance number 71758, property tax credit for eligible senior taxpayers residing in the city of St. Louis. Board Bill 75, sponsored by Alderman Cone, President Green, and Alderwoman Velazquez. An ordinance submitting to the qualified voter of the city an amendment to the Charter of the City of St. Louis to amend Article 2, 4, and 5 of the Charter of the City of St. Louis, providing for an election to be held for voting on the proposed amendment for the manner of voting, for the publication, certification, deposit, recording of this ordinance containing an emergency clause. Board Bill 76, sponsored by Alderman Cone, President Green, and Alderwoman Velazquez. An ordinance submitting to the qualified voters of the city an amendment to the Charter of the City of St. Louis, updating language throughout the Charter to replace pronouns with specific titles, delete specific obsolete references, provide for modern methods of advertisement, use modern departmental names, repealing and replacing Section 1 of Article 4 and enacting in lieu thereof a new Section 1 of Article 4, changing the name of the Board of Aldermen to City Council, and making similar changes, providing for the election to be held for the voting on the proposed amendment, for the manner of voting, for the publication, certification, deposit, and recording of this ordinance containing an emergency clause. Board Bill 77, sponsored by Alderwoman Sanier. An ordinance submitting to the qualified voters of the City of St. Louis a proposal to amend Article 25, Section 1 of the Charter of the City of St. Louis to allow the legislative body to reconstruct and reorganize city departments through the ordinance-making process. That's the extent of first reading of board bills.
If you could please add me as a co-sponsor to 77 and also refer it to the Legislation and Rules Committee.
So noted.
Reference to Committee of Board Bills.
To the HUD's Committee, Board Bill 65. To Health and Human Development, Board Bill 66. To Public Infrastructure, Board Bill 67, 68, and 69. To Budget and Public Employees, Board Bill 70 and 74. To the Legislation Committee, Board Bill 71, 72, 73, 75, 76, and 77. That's the extent of reference to committee board bills.
Second reading and report of standing committees.
The following board bills were reported out of Transportation and Commerce with a due pass recommendation. Board Bill 57, sponsored by Alderman Cone, an ordinance pertaining to the transit sales tax imposed pursuant to Section 94.660 as adopted by the voters of the City of St. Louis on August 2nd, 1994, pursuant to ordinance number 63168, creating the City Public Transit Sales Tax Trust Fund, directing the treasurer of the City of St. Louis to deposit funds received pursuant to sales tax into the City Public Transit Sales Tax Trust Fund, account 1, appropriating $13,069,000 from said sales tax for a period of July 1st, 2024 through June 30th, 2025 to the Bi-State Development Agency for certain purposes containing the severability and emergency clause. Board Bill 58, sponsored by Alderman Cone, an ordinance pertaining to the transit sales tax imposed pursuant to Section 94.660 revised statutes of Missouri as adopted by the voters of St. Louis City on November 4th, 1997, pursuant to ordinance number 64111, creating the City Public Transit Sales Tax Trust Fund, directing the treasurer of the City of St. Louis to deposit funds pursuant to said sales tax into the City Public Transit Sales Tax Trust Fund, account 2, appropriating $13,069,000 from the said sales tax for the period of July 1st, 2024 through June 30th, 2025 to the Bi-State Development Agency for certain purposes containing the severability and emergency clause. The following board bill was reported out of HUD's with a due pass recommendation. Board Bill 13 as amended, sponsored by Alderman Cone and Alderman Browning, an ordinance recommended by the Planning Commission amending zoning code to add section 26.80.45, creating exceptions to certain parking, height, and area regulation of the zoning code for any parcel or portion thereof located within 1 1/2 mile radius of the planned North Side, South Side Metro Transit Station on the Green Line Light Rail alignment approved by the East-West Gateway Council of Governments Board of Directors on February the 28th, 2024, containing an emergency clause. Board Bill 48, the following board bill was reported out of Budget Committee with the due pass recommendation. Board Bill 48, sponsored by Alderman Aldridge, an ordinance relating to the appointment of and salaries of certain employees of the St. Louis Board of Elections Commissioners pursuant to 11.045 and 11.049 revised statutes of Missouri by repealing ordinance number 71702, allocating certain other employees to a grade with rate, including an emergency clause. The provisions of the section contained in this ordinance shall be effective with the start of the first pay period after approval by the mayor. The following board bills were reported out of Public Infrastructure and Utilities Committee with the due pass recommendation. Board Bill 44, sponsored by Alderwoman Spencer, pursuant to ordinance number 70333, as amended by ordinance number 71394, and ordinance directing the Director of Streets to install speed humps to calm the flow of traffic on various blocks in the 8th Ward. Board Bill 54, sponsored by Alderwoman Boyd, and ordinance directing the Director of Streets to install speed humps to ordinance number 70333, as amended by ordinance number 71394, to calm the flow of traffic on the 15 through the 1800 block of McLaurin Avenue and the 8000 block of Church Drive. Board Bill 64, sponsored by Alderwoman Boyd, and ordinance directing the Director of Streets to install speed humps pursuant to ordinance number 70333, as amended by ordinance number 71394, to calm the flow of traffic on the 5400 block through the 5700 blocks of St. Louis Avenue, the 4400 block of Arlington Avenue, and the 45 through the 4900 block of Emerson Avenue. That's the extent of second reading report of standing committees.
Alderperson from the 3rd, you are recognized on the motion to suspend the rules for the purposes of moving Board Bill 13 as amended to the regular perfection calendar. Alderman from the 3rd. Alderman from the 3rd. Alderman from the 3rd.
Pardon?
You are recognized on the suspension of the rules for the purposes of moving Board Bill 13 as amended to the regular calendar.
Thank you, Madam President. I move that we suspend the rules for the purposes of moving Board Bill 13 as amended to the
regular perfection
calendar. Thank you.
Is there a second? It's been moved by the Alderman from the 3rd, seconded by the Alderwoman from the 1st, that we suspend the rules for the purposes of moving Board Bill number 13 as amended to the regular perfection calendar. This is a non-debatable motion. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderwoman Schweitzer. Alderman Oldenburg. Alderman Cone.
Aye.
Alderman Narayan. Alderman Balmer. Alderwoman Velazquez. Alderwoman Sanye. Alderwoman Spencer. Alderman Browning. Alderwoman Clark Hubbard. Alderwoman Keys. Alderwoman Tyus. Alderwoman Boyd.
Aye.
Alderman Aldridge. President Green.
Aye.
Alderwoman Tyus. 13 aye votes and 1 voted present.
By your vote, you sustain the motion from the Alderman from the 3rd. Please place Board Bill number 13 as amended on the regular perfection calendar.
So noted.
Report of special committees.
We have none.
Board bills for perfection consent.
We have none.
Board bills for perfection.
Board Bill 13 as amended, sponsored by Alderman Cone and Alderman Browning, an ordinance recommended by the Planning Commission, amending the zoning code to add section 26.80.45, creating exceptions to certain parking, height, and area regulation of the zoning code for a parcel or portion thereof located within 1/2 mile radius of the planned north side, south side Metro Transit Station on the Green Line Light Rail Alignment approved by the East-West Gateway Council of the Government's Board of Directors on February the 28th, 2024, containing an emergency clause.
Alderman from the 3rd, you are recognized on the perfection of Board Bill 13 as amended.
Good morning, Madam President. I am having a very robust conversation with my colleague from the 4th over.
You are recognized on the perfection of Board Bill 13 as amended.
Thank you. I move that we perfect Board Bill 13 as amended.
It's been moved by the Alderman from the 3rd, seconded by the Alderwoman from the 7th, that we perfect Board Bill 13 as amended. Alderman.
Thank you, Madam President. Board Bill 13 is a very exciting board bill, I think, for the city. It's an amendment to our zoning code. It's a text amendment to the zoning code, providing for updates to the zoning along the proposed Green Line light rail line, which will run north-south through the city along Jefferson predominantly. And essentially, this board bill does three things. We talked pretty extensively about this in HUDs. The first thing that it does is it eliminates or I shouldn't say eliminate, but reduces the parking minimums within that area. It's a 1/2 mile radius off the route. It also provides for more density. It reduces the lot sizes that are required as well along that route. And so those are really the things that this board bill does. It is part of an effort to help our application for federal funding. And with that, I would ask for favorable consideration on Board Bill 13 as amended.
Any further discussion? Alderman from the 4th.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. Could you please add me as a co-sponsor?
Madam Clerk, please make note of that, and if you would add me as a co-sponsor as well. Any further discussion? Alderwoman from the 1st.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. I'd also like to be added as a co-sponsor. Thank you.
Madam Clerk, please make note of that. Alderwoman from the 7th.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. I would like to be added as co-sponsor too, and then also just to add some context for folks at home who may be working and who maybe didn't watch the HUD's meeting or colleagues who are here. The bill is very thought out. It's had many stakeholders involved in it. And what was mentioned to us a lot is that many of the things that are in this bill that are for this specific project, there need to be larger conversations around. So there's things in this bill that talks about parking requirements, that talks about a lot of ways that kind of density and our zoning are actually in opposition to each other, and the dangers that can present for community in ways that might be holding back development and transit and other things. And so I just wanted to add for context, I've received a couple of emails about it, that the things that are in this bill, even though they're just for this, they're aimed at a particular project, there are larger conversations about enacting some of these policies and zoning changes overall.
Alderwoman from the 6th.
To be added as a co-sponsor.
Madam Clerk, please make note of that. Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Alderman from the 3rd, you're recognized to close.
Thank you, Madam President, and I thank my colleagues who have added themselves as sponsors of the bill. As I mentioned, it's a very exciting step forward for our city, and particularly for this project, which I hope will increase participation and ridership in our public transit system here in the city, and also provide opportunities for connectivity and future development that creates a more healthy and vibrant city of St. Louis. And with that, again, would ask for everyone's favorable consideration.
It's been moved by the Alderman from the 3rd, seconded by the Alderwoman from the 7th, that we perfect Board Bill number 13 as amended. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderwoman Schweitzer. Aye. Alderman Oldenburg. Alderman Cone.
Aye.
Alderman Narayan.
Aye.
Alderman Balmer. Alderwoman Velazquez. Alderwoman Sanye.
Aye.
Alderwoman Spencer. Alderman Browning. Alderwoman Clark Hubbard. Alderwoman Keys. Alderwoman Tyus. Alderwoman Boyd.
Aye.
Alderman Aldridge. President Green.
Aye.
Alderman Oldenburg. Alderwoman Tyus. 14 aye votes.
By your vote, you sustain the motion from the alderman from the 3rd to perfect Board Bill number 13 as amended. Report of engrossment.
Board Bill 11, Committee Sub as amended. 12, Committee Sub as amended. 25 as amended. 53, 55, 56, 30 as amended. 36, 41 Committee Sub as amended, and 51 as amended.
I know what I'm getting. Okay. Third reading and final passage of Board Bills consent.
Board Bill 11, Committee Sub as amended. 12, Committee Sub as amended. 25 as amended. 53, 55, 56. I'm sorry, and 56. That's the last one.
Alderwoman from the 10th, you're recognized on the motion to adopt the third reading and final passage of Board Bills on the consent calendar.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. I move that we adopt the third reading and final passage of Board Bills consent calendar.
Second.
It's been moved by the Alderwoman from the 10th, seconded by the Alderperson from the 14th, that we adopt the third reading and final passage of Board Bills on the consent calendar. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderwoman Schweitzer. Alderman Oldenburg. Alderman Cone.
Aye.
Alderman Narayan.
Aye.
Alderman Balmer. Alderwoman Velazquez. Alderwoman Sanier. Alderwoman Spencer. Alderman Browning. Alderwoman Clark Hubbard. Alderwoman Keys. Alderwoman Tyus. Alderwoman Boyd.
Aye.
Alderman Aldridge. President Green.
Aye.
Alderman Oldenburg. Alderwoman Tyus. 14 aye votes.
By your vote, you sustain the motion from the Alderwoman from the 10th to have third read and finally pass the aforementioned bills. Alderman from the 14th, you are recognized on the motion to reconsider.
What?
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. I move to move Board Bill 30 back to the perfection calendar and reconsider the voting on the prevailing side.
Having voted on the prevailing side, you would like to make a motion to reconsider Board Bill 30
as amended, yes.
Okay, say that for me.
Voting on the prevailing side, I would like to move to reconsider Board Bill 30 as amended.
It's been moved by the Alderman from the 14th, seconded by the Alderwoman from the 7th, that we reconsider Board Bill 30 as amended. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderwoman Schweitzer. Aye. Alderman Oldenburg. Alderman Cone.
Aye.
Alderman Narayan.
Aye.
Alderman Balmer. Alderwoman Velazquez. Alderwoman Sanier. Alderwoman Spencer. Alderman Browning. Alderwoman Clark Hubbard. Alderwoman Keys. Alderwoman Tyus. Alderwoman Boyd.
Aye.
Alderman Aldridge. President Green.
Aye.
Alderwoman Sanier. Alderwoman Tyus. 14 aye votes.
You could please place Board Bill number 30 as amended back on the regular perfection calendar, and then we will take up Board Bill number 30 as amended.
So noted.
Alderman from the 14th, you are recognized on the perfection of Bill 30 as amended.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. I move to perfect.
Sorry, hold 1 second. Board Bills for perfection. The clerk needs to reread it.
Board Bill 30 as amended. sponsored by Alderman Aldridge, President Green, Alderman Ryan, Alderwoman Velazquez, and Alderwoman Sanye. An ordinance submitting to the qualified voters of the City of St. Louis a proposal to change Article 16 to Section 3 of the Charter of the City of St. Louis to permit the Board of Aldermen to increase the amount of any item in the appropriations proposed in the city's annual budget ordinance, except amounts fixed by the statute or for the payment of principal or interest of the city debt for the meeting for meeting any ordinance obligations, calling for an election for voting on said change and the manner of voting at the election, and the publication and certification and deposit and recording as required by Article 6, Section 33 of Missouri Constitution, containing an emergency clause.
Alderman from the 14th, you're recognized on the perfection of Board Bill 30 as amended.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. I move to perfect Board Bill 30 as amended.
It's been moved by the Alderman from the 14th, seconded by the Alderwoman from the 7th, that we perfect Board Bill number 30 as amended. Alderman, you may proceed.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. I move to adopt the floor substitute for Board Bill 30 as amended.
It's been moved by the Alderman from the 14th, seconded by the Alderman from the 4th, that we adopt the floor sub for Board Bill 30 as amended. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Alderman from the 14th, you are now recognized on Board Bill 30, floor substitute.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the committee. This is one of the changes that has been in front of us from the Charter Commission. We perfected this last week, which will give the Board of Aldermen the ability to increase after this past Monday and getting the full recommendations from the Charter Commission. There were some things that the Charter Commission recommended that was left out in the legislation. So everyone has a red line on their desks. Honestly, I remember having, during our last week debate, had conversations with Alderwoman Tyus, and I think these recommendations will actually give the Board of Aldermen a little bit more true power when it comes to the budget. So the two key things that came from the charter recommendation that we're adding is on page 2, which will, without requiring any consideration or approval from the Board of Estimate, once the Board of ENA gets the budget and they pass it out and it comes to the Board of Aldermen, historically, if the Board of Aldermen made any changes, they have to go back to ENA for approval. Then it would come back to the Board of Aldermen for the committee. We will be getting rid of that process where it goes back to ENA. So once the Board of Aldermen make increases, or it will go directly to this body and it will be voted on. Another change is once this body votes on said budget, instead of it going back to ENA, it will go directly to the mayor. She will have the ability to do line item vetoes instead of it going back to ENA. And then another change that was made is that we just made today is on page 2 as well, where the Board of Aldermen shall in no case appropriate or reappropriate budget revenues for operation expense or any other purposes. There's been a lot of, I guess, conversation from certain offices that are part of the ENA that this would be a negative impact to our budget. So we wanted to put protection language outside of just the balancing clause that is in here, but also ensure that we cannot touch any revenues, that the Board of Aldermen cannot touch, increase or decrease any reserves that would be on the budget. And with that, I would close for any discussion.
Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Seeing none, Alderman from the 14th, you are recognized to close.
I close.
It's been moved by the Alderman from the 14th, seconded by the Alderman from the 4th, that we perfect Board Bill number 30 floor substitute. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderwoman Schweitzer. Aye. Alderman Oldenburg. Alderman Cone. Alderman Narayan.
Aye.
Alderman Balmer. Alderwoman Velazquez. Aye. Alderwoman Sanye. Aye. Excuse me. Alderwoman Spencer. Alderman Browning. Aye. Alderwoman Clark Hubbard. Aye. Alderwoman Keys. Alderwoman Tyus. Alderwoman Boyd.
Aye.
Alderman Aldridge.
Aye.
President Green.
Aye.
Alderman Cone. Alderman Balmer. Alderwoman Keys. Alderwoman Tyus. Eleven aye votes and one no vote.
By your vote, you have sustained the motion from the Alderman from the 14th to perfect Board Bill number 30, floor substitute. This time we will go back to third reading and final passage of Board Bill.
Board Bill 36, sponsored by Alderwoman Spencer, President Green, Alderwoman Weiss, Alderman Cone, Alderman Narayan, Alderman Balmer, Alderwoman Velazquez, Alderwoman Sanye, Alderwoman Spencer, Alderman Browning, Alderwoman Clark Hubbard, Alderwoman Keys, Alderwoman Tyus, Alderwoman Boyd, and Alderman Aldridge. An ordinance repealing Chapter 11.28 of the Revised Code of the City of St. Louis pertaining to abortions by repealing Section 11.28.010 of the Revised Code of the City of St. Louis, Sections 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 10 of Ordinance Number 56729, codified in Section 11.28.010, 11.28.020, 11.28.030, 11.28.040, 11.28.050, 11.28.060, 11.28.070, 11.28.080, 11.28.090, 11.28.100 of the Revised Code of the City of St. Louis, Sections 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 of Ordinance Number 56579.
Alderwoman from the 8th, you are recognized on the third reading and final passage of Board Bill 36.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. I move that we third read and finally pass Board Bill number 36.
Second.
It's been moved by the Alderwoman from the 8th, seconded by the Alderperson from the 13th, that we third read and finally pass Board Bill 36. Alderwoman, you may proceed.
Thank you, Madam President. Board Bill 36, as we have discussed, is an ordinance repealing some of our city's most archaic laws related to health care facilities, particularly abortion facilities, repealing the entirety of Chapter 11, Section 28 of our revised city code.
Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Seeing none, you're recognized to close.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. I move that we third read and finally pass Board Bill 36.
It's been moved by the Alderwoman from the 8th, seconded by the 14th, that we third read and finally pass Board Bill number 36. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderwoman Schweitzer. Aye. Alderman Oldenburg. Alderman Cone. Alderman Narayan. Aye. Alderman Balmer. Alderwoman Velazquez. Aye. Alderwoman Sanye. Aye. Alderwoman Spencer.
Aye.
Alderman Browning. Alderwoman Clark Hubbard. Alderwoman Keys. Alderwoman Tyus. Alderwoman Boyd. Alderman Aldridge.
Aye.
President Green.
Aye.
Alderman Cone. Alderman Balmer. Alderwoman Tyus. Alderwoman Boyd.
Aye.
13 aye votes.
By your vote, you sustain the motion from the Alderwoman from the 8th to third read and finally pass Board Bill 36.
Board Bill 41, Committee Sub as amended, sponsored by Alderman Narayan, Alderwoman Sanye, Alderman Aldridge, and Alderwoman Velazquez. An ordinance calling and providing for the holding of an election in the City of St. Louis on November 5th, 2024, for the purpose of submitting to the qualified voters of the City of St. Louis a proposal impose a 3% fee on short-term rental units within the City of St. Louis, which are operating pursuant to the City of St. Louis Ordinance 71729.
Madam Clerk, I think I'm supposed to be listed as a co-sponsor on that as well.
So noted.
Alderman from the 4th, you are recognized on Board Bill 41 Committee Substitute as amended.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. I move that we third read and finally pass Board Bill 41, Committee Substitute as amended.
It's been moved by the Alderman from the 4th, seconded by the Alderperson from the 14th, that we third read and finally pass Board Bill 41 Committee Substitute as amended. Alderman, you may proceed.
This is the short-term rental user fee. I ask for your favorable consideration.
Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Alderwoman from the 8th.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. I just, again, want to reiterate my concerns about allocating these funds. This is one of the two ways in which we have to tax additional things at a time where our revenue stream is very tenuous at best. Setting in advance where these funds will go, I think, really could put us in a predicament if we need them for other things as we move forward. And with that, I just urging my colleagues to exercise caution as we move through these tumultuous times with regards to our earnings tax, our enormous population loss, and other issues that are greatly impacting our budget before prescripting the use of additional revenue streams. And with that, I will be voting no, recognizing that I think imposing a fee would be a good thing, and I really commend the sponsor on identifying a revenue stream that we could utilize, but I think prescripting it here without taking into account the potential shortfalls in our general fund, I think in a negative position.
Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Alderman from the 4th, you're recognized to close.
I renew my motion.
It's been moved by the Alderman from the 4th, seconded by the Alderman from the 14th, that we third read and finally pass Board Bill 41 Committee Substitute as amended. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderwoman Schweitzer. Aye. Alderman Odenberg. Alderman Cone. Alderman Narayan. Aye. Alderman Valmer. Aye. Alderwoman Velasquez. Aye. Alderwoman Sanye. Aye. Alderwoman Spencer. No. Alderman Browning. Alderwoman Clark Hubbard. Alderwoman Keys. Alderwoman Tyus. Alderwoman Boyd. Alderman Aldrich.
Aye.
President Green.
Aye.
Alderman Cone. Alderwoman Tyus. Alderwoman Boyd. We have 10 aye votes, 1 no vote, and 1 present.
By your vote, you sustain the motion from the Alderman from the 4th to third read and finally pass Board Bill Committee Substitute as amended. We are in 51 as amended.
Board Bill 51 as amended, sponsored by Alderwoman Schweitzer, President Green, Alderman Orion, Alderwoman Velasquez, Alderman Browning, Alderwoman Clark Hubbard, Alderwoman Keys, Alderman Aldrich, Alderman Odenberg, and Alderwoman Sanye. An ordinance repealing ordinance number 69955, codified as chapter 3.110.120 of the revised code of the City of St. Louis, and in lieu thereof enacting a new ordinance relating to a complete streets policy for the City of St. Louis, relating to the standards and guiding principles for the planning, design, construction, or reconstruction of any public right-of-way to consider all users, containing provisions for contractors and utilities relating to the blocking or closure of the public of way, containing a severability clause.
Alderwoman from the 1st, you're recognized on the third reading, final passage of Board Bill 51 as amended.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. I move to third read and finally pass Board Bill 51 as amended.
It's been moved by the Alderwoman from the 1st, seconded by the Alderman from the 4th, that we third read and finally pass Board Bill 51 as amended. Alderwoman, you may proceed.
Thank you, Madam President. This bill is a Complete Streets update policy to our current Complete Streets ordinance that's in effect. There was a bill that passed in 2010 introducing this concept in the city of St. Louis and was revised in 2015. This is that next step in the evolution of that policy, adding some more modern languages to the policy and updating it in certain ways. Some of the things that I think are the most important to point out before we pass this bill, I hope today, is that, one, this is really about centering all road users when we're building streets and doing road work in the city of St. Louis, not just building cars for people who are driving, but for everyone who's using our street, whether you're walking, biking, taking public transit, or in a wheelchair. This is the way that this policy is strengthened through this update is, one, the Complete Streets Committee that's supposed to be meeting quarterly in our city of St. Louis will become a public meeting. So any major transportation project happening in the city, there might be, now 1 or 2 public meetings that are hosted in certain phases of design. But what this does is every time, quarterly when this group is meeting and they're giving updates on that policy, the public would be able to know what's happening, what's the update with something they may have seen somewhat recently and in their community, but want more details on changes that may have occurred since the public meeting. This gives that ongoing opportunity for the public to not only see this happening in real time, but also to participate and have time public comment. That's not where it stops, though, in terms of public engagement. The Complete Streets Committee will now also have a seat on the committee for a member of the public to be at the decision-making table. And the type of decisions that the committee will be relied upon include things like putting together a memo yearly before the first Capital Committee that recommends projects to the Capital Committee that base these project recommendations around prioritizing a few really important things. Vulnerable populations in our city, kids, people who are on bikes and wheelchairs in low-income areas, prioritizing the Transportation Mobility Plan, which is ongoing, prioritizing areas where we've seen incidents of, road violence, whether it's been a pedestrian struck and killed or recurring accidents at a location. So making it into our policy that those are the areas that need to be prioritized and be lifted up to the Capital Committee when they're making decisions. It also, in addition to that memo that's provided to the Capital Committee, this committee would also be putting together an annual report going over how the city is doing in terms of meeting Complete Streets benchmarks, things like how many miles of lanes are now protected bike lanes, how many new ADA curb ramps do we have in the city of St. Louis, how many projects are happening in low-income areas, and just making sure that we're not only having this committee recommend this type of project, but really giving the city also a scorecard to look at about how it's doing in its goal to complete this policy. This is something that could not be done alone. I certainly did not do every piece of work in this bill, so I really want to thank, first of all the co-sponsors of the bill, especially Alderman Browning, who's been incredibly helpful. Our wonderful legislative assistants, Caitlin and Christian, have done an incredible amount of work. We've had the Transform 314 community involved, TrailNet, American Cancer Society, American Heart Association has been involved, the Community Mobility Committee, and of course, I want to make sure to thank Scott Ogilvie, who's the Complete Streets Manager, and without Scott, so many projects that we have in the city already maybe wouldn't be as far along as they are, wouldn't have happened, and I just want to make sure that he knows how grateful we are to have his leadership continue outside of the Board of Aldermen within the administration. I'm happy to take questions on this. I know we've been talking about this for many, many months now, but I really appreciate your all support today, and I hope we can get this bill passed. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Alderman from the 9th.
Thank you. I just want to say thank you to the sponsor for putting so much thoughtful work into this, and am just very, very excited to support this. During Disability Pride Month, this is an exciting time to pass a bill like this because it isn't just about bicyclists and pedestrians, it's about all road users and making sure that people are safe and that we're really addressing those most vulnerable populations. I really appreciated the comments made by Councilwoman Dunaway this morning. I thought that was really, really pertinent to this because we are trying to consider people throughout our city. remembering that disabilities for a lot of people is not an if, but a when. And so this is something that advantages all of us as we go through our lives and as we age, or just, whatever happens to us in our lives. So I'm very, very excited about this, proudly supporting it, and am just thrilled that we're passing this today.
Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Alderwoman from the 10th.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. I just want to publicly commend the sponsor for the intentional work that she did to include the community in this effort. Didn't you even bike this morning today? I think she biked in advocacy for it. So we know that this is going to be an ongoing process that's going to continue the community engagement. I want to not only thank you for the co-work down here, but the efforts you made in the community, with our sister Kelly McGowan at Transform 314, all the work that you're doing. She actually has Wednesday to culminate and talk about the work that you're doing. So please continue to stay in that spirit that you have. It's inspiring, and I'm glad that we're moving this today.
Alderwoman from the 7th.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. I just wanted to add to the band and commend the sponsor publicly for all of her work on this bill. I know that it's been quite a journey and a destination to get here, but I really appreciate your advocacy around this issue. I think a lot of constituents and residents are in agreement that many of the ways of which we have historically as a city approached our streets and our design and our policies around and the way that departments work with each other is antiquated and ineffective. It's not yielding in safe streets. Obviously we know the issues there. So I just really appreciate your advocacy, and I would move to embank this.
On third reading, we cannot embank.
All right. Well, thank you.
Alderwoman from the 8th.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. I just want to echo what many of my colleagues have already said, expressing gratitude for the work that went into this, to both the sponsor and Alderman Browning and everybody else who participated, including my ex-colleague, former Alderman Scott Ogilvie, who has done a great job representing transportation issues. He's a far better complete streets organizer than he was an alderman. I'm just kidding. But, no, in all seriousness, this is an important issue. I know this was a lot of work. As somebody who cycled this morning and was almost mowed over on Broadway by a vehicle, a very, very scary encounter I had this morning. I just really appreciate this work. I know it's very important to keeping all of us safer on our city streets. So thank you for your work here today, and I'm happy to support.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, Alderwoman from the 1st, you're recognized to close.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. I appreciate everyone's comments today and your support. This has been an effort involving a lot of different people, as I mentioned, and Mayor Jones's office has been very supportive as well. And I just look forward to continuing the work. We're definitely not done. So with that, I renew my motion.
It's been moved by the Alderwoman from the 1st, seconded by the Alderman from the 4th, that we third read and finally pass Board Bill 51 as amended. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderwoman Schweitzer. Aye. Alderman Oldenburg. Alderman Cone. Alderman Orion. Alderman Balmer. Alderwoman Velazquez. Alderwoman Sanye. Alderwoman Spencer. Alderman Browning. Alderwoman Clark Hubbard. Alderwoman Keys. Alderwoman Tyus. Alderwoman Boyd.
Aye.
Alderman Aldridge. President Green.
Aye.
Alderman Oldenburg. Alderwoman Spencer. Alderwoman Tyus. Alderman Aldridge. 14 aye votes.
By your vote, you sustain the motion from the Alderwoman from the 1st to third read and finally pass Board Bill 51 as amended.
That's the extent of third reading and final passage of board bills.
Report of the finally passed and signed by the President.
Board Bill 11, Committee Sub as amended. 12, Committee Sub as amended. 25 as amended. 53, 55, 56, 36, 41, Committee Sub as amended, and 51 as amended.
All other business being suspended, the President shall in open session affix her signature hereto to the end that these may become law. First reading of resolutions in reference to committees.
Resolution 90, sponsored by Alderman Orion, Crime Prevention Program Funds.
Aldermen from the 4th, you are recognized on the first reading of Resolution 90.
Thank you, Madam President. I move that we refer Resolution 90 to Public Safety.
It's been moved by the Alderman from the 4th, seconded by the Alderwoman from the 7th, that we send resolution number 90 to public safety. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Second reading resolutions, committee reports and adoptions.
Resolution 86, sponsored by Alderwoman Clark Hubbard and Alderwoman Sanye. Section 108, Loan Guarantee Program.
Alderwoman from the 10th, you're recognized on the second reading of Resolution 86.
Thank you, Madam President. Members of the board, I move that we adopt resolution number 86.
It's been moved by the Alderwoman from the 10th, seconded by the Alderman from the 14th, that we adopt resolution number 86. Alderwoman, you may proceed.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. I just note that we had a very informative presentation from CDA director and staff about around Resolution 86 on the Section 108 Loan Guarantee Program. If anybody has any questions, I'm available. But otherwise, I renew my motion and ask that we adopt Resolution 86.
It's been moved by the Alderwoman from the 10th, seconded by the Alderperson from the 14th, that we adopt resolution number 86. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Report from the Transportation and Commerce Committee. Mayoral appointees to the Metropolitan Taxi Cab Commission. Robert Callow.
Alderman from the 3rd, you are recognized on Mayor Jones' appointment to the Metropolitan Taxi Cab Commission.
Thank you, Madam President. I rise in support of the mayor's appointments to the Taxi Cab Commission. We had a hearing in the Transportation and Commerce Committee about these nominees, and I rise to support the mayor's appointments to the Taxi Cab Commission.
Do you want to make a motion?
I make a motion that we adopt the mayor's appointments to the Taxi Cab, or confirm the mayor's appointments to the Taxi Cab Commission.
Point of order.
Yes, Alderman from the 4th, what is your point of order?
We are about to appoint Robert Callow. I think we want to appoint Richard Callow.
Good catch. There is a Scribner's error in our agenda. Please make note that the motion is for a Richard Callow, not a Robert Callow.
It was correct in committee, for the record, and Mr. Callow appeared before the committee as well.
Right. It has been moved by the Alderman from the 3rd and seconded by the Alderperson from the 14th that we approve Mayor Jones' appointment of Richard Callow to the Metropolitan Taxi Cab Commission.
Roll call. Discussion.
Yes, please.
Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderwoman Schweitzer.
Aye.
Alderman Oldenburg. Alderman Cone.
Pass.
Alderman Orion.
Aye.
Alderman Balmer. Alderwoman Velazquez. Alderwoman Sanye. Alderwoman Spencer. Alderman Browning.
On the mic right now.
Alderwoman Clark Hubbard. Alderwoman Keys. Alderwoman Tyus. Alderwoman Boyd. Alderman Aldridge. President Green.
Aye.
Alderman Oldenburg.
Aye.
Alderman Cone.
Aye.
Alderman Spencer. Alderwoman Tyus. Alderwoman Boyd. 13 aye votes.
By your vote, you sustain the motion from the Alderman from the 3rd to approve Mayor Jones' appointment to the Taxi Cab Commission.
Mayoral appointees to the Convention and Visitors Commission. Reginald Johnson, Charles Downs, Mary Elizabeth Grimes, and Janelle Sorrow.
Alderman from the 3rd, you are recognized on Mayor Jones' appointments to the Convention and Visitors Commission.
Thank you, Madam Chair, or Madam President. As chair of the Transportation and Commerce Committee that has oversight of the CVC These were referred to committee. We heard from almost all of the appointees. There was one that was unable to attend the meeting, but otherwise they all came before us and shared their experience, background, and commitment to advance the industry and support the CVC. And with that, I move that we confirm the mayor's appointments to the Visitors and Conventions Commission.
Any further discussion? Any further discussion? It's been moved by the Alderman from the 3rd, seconded by the Alderman from the 14th, that we approve Mayor Jones' appointments to the Convention and Visitors Commission. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Report from the Public Safety Committee. Mayoral appointees to the Detention Facilities Oversight Board, Kanika Harper and Osmond Gay.
Alderman from the 4th, you're recognized on Mayor Jones' appointments to the Detention Facilities Oversight.
Thank you, Madam President. I move that we appoint Ms. Kanika Harper and Mr. Ushman Gay to the Detention Facilities Oversight Board.
It's been moved by the Alderman from the 4th, seconded by the Alderwoman from the 7th, that we approve Mayor Jones' appointments to the Detention Facilities Oversight Board. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Report from the Personnel Committee.
I move.
I was just going to close meeting notice.
I would entertain a motion that the meeting of the full Board of Aldermen be closed to the public under provisions of 610.0213 and 610.022 of the Missouri Revised Statutes in order to permit the members of the board to discuss matters related to the hiring, firing, disciplining, and promoting of employees of the Board of Aldermen.
So moved.
It's been moved by the Alderman from the 3rd, seconded by the Alderman from the 14th. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderwoman Schweitzer. Aye. Alderman Oldenburg. Alderman Cone.
No.
Alderman Narayan. Alderman Balmer. Alderwoman Velazquez. Alderwoman Sanye. Alderwoman Spencer. Alderman Browning. Alderwoman Clark Hubbard. Alderwoman Keys. Alderwoman Tyus. Alderwoman Boyd.
Aye.
Alderman Aldridge.
No.
President Green.
Aye.
Alderwoman Clark Hubbard.
Oh, Brett. Another.
Alderwoman Tyus. 12 aye votes and 2 no votes.
By your vote, you sustain the motion. From the Alderman from the 3rd, if we could please be placed in closed session, and if all members of the public and staff and press other than Sharita could please leave the chambers for a couple minutes. And we are back. Miscellaneous and unfinished business.
We have none.
Announcements.
We have none.
Any further announcements? Alderwoman from the 11th. Woman, turn your mic on.
It says a song.
Okay, there we go.
Okay. Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. I just wanted to say thank you to the public at large for their participation in Tire Amnesty Day last Saturday. We collected 3 dumpsters and overflow of tires throughout our city. So this effort isn't over. The end of the month, I believe Saturday the 27th, we'll be back at it. Get those tires ready. Let's get them off of our streets, roadways, and alleys. One lady, and I'm sorry, I don't have her name, but she brought in, fairly small frame lady, she brought in 2 pickup truck loads of tires by herself. And so not only did she get the gas card, I also presented her with a Total Wine and More card because I figured she needed a drink after that. So again, thank you, everyone.
Alderwoman from the 13th.
Thank you, Madam President and the board. I wanted to do something that doesn't happen a lot in our community. We have a senior, her name is Merle Minzy, and she is a shot putter. And so she is throwing in the World Masters Athletic Championship. They're doing a fundraiser to send her to that, excuse me, they're doing a fundraiser to raise money to help her go to the championship in Sweden. And so I wanted to recognize her and congratulate her on her determination in regards to the shot put and the championship. She has brought gold medals to the Walnut Park area, and she is a Walnut Park resident.
Any further announcements? Alderman from the 14th.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. On Thursday, July 25th, from 7 a.m. to 1 p.m., there will be a cleanup, build up in College Hill neighborhood. I will be partnering with the Regional Business Council, Urban League, City of St. Louis, SLDC, Spire, American Water, and Ameren UE. And then on Saturday, July 27th, July 27th from 8 a.m. to 2 p.m., we'll be doing a block builders where we will be building Peace Park Community Project. College Hill is the only neighborhood that does not have a park, so it's kind of exciting time to be able to bring a park in partnership with the Urban League, City of St. Louis, SLDC, and the Urban League Federation of Block Units. Thank you.
Alderman from the 7th.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. I wanted to announce, I've walked around and talked to a lot of my colleagues, but I do have a petition going to ask Bi-State to add the Russell and Jefferson stops back. We've got almost 300 signatures from residents. Majority of my colleagues have agreed to sign on, and I think my goal might be to get to 500, which I think we can do. But I wanted to announce for anyone who's watching is interested in adding and signing that petition, I would welcome it. One of the reasons for the cuts of one of the stops is that it's near a daycare facility, and I think that type of thinking really highlights a part of what's wrong with the way that we think about transit in our city. I think while some might say a daycare facility is a reason not to add a stop, I'm sure a majority of the folks would like the option of take the metro, drop off their child, and then go to work. And so I just want to make sure I put that out there. If you're interested in signing that petition, I would, and also put it on record that I'll be bugging my colleagues to sign as well. Thank you.
Alderwoman from the 10th.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. I have a few announcements. First, Saturday, tomorrow from 5 to 8 is the Living Legends Awards at the Missouri History Museum from the Be the Change organization. And again, this is a free event, the Living Legends Award. They're going to be honoring Theda Wilson, Keaton Strong, Cal Brown, Michael Brown Jr., Adrian Pennington, Matthew and Nia Fogarty, and others. So please, if you have the opportunity, go and celebrate the Be the Change Living Legends Awards. And then I mentioned during my comments to Alderwoman Schweitzer's Complete Streets bill, but I want to formally also announce the Transform 314 and Kelly McGowan, the group that has been meeting regularly and intentionally around policy and measures here in the city of St. Louis, is having their community meetup for Complete Streets. And it's at 3301 Washington this Wednesday, July 17th from 6 to 8 p.m. at the High Low. And dinner is provided. Registration is recommended. And then my last announcement is, if you hadn't noticed, Forest Park now has an open and operable basketball court. And that has gone a lot of work. Years of work has gone into that, and I was excited to be there Tuesday, even though we were rained out, to cut the ribbon on the court, the Nick, which was named most appropriately after Nicholas Booker, through his family and his legacy. And please, I encourage you to go look that up so that you can celebrate it as well. But the community celebration is this Saturday from 10 to 8. The courts are just north of the Forest Park Visitor Center. So it's from 10 to 4, starting with basketball court and dedication with Nicholas J. Booker's family, which I heard there's over 100 members and family and friends that will be there in support of this. It's called the Nick after him. And then at 10:30, youth basketball, 11 parent and caregivers, a free game throw contest at 1:15 is the high school game. 1:45 is the wheelchair basketball game. 2:30 is the adult 3-on-3 games, and then at 3 p.m. local celebrity and college games. So they are again being intentional about making this space as inclusive as possible. So please come out and celebrate basketball in Forest Park this weekend.
And from the 14th.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. It'll be really quickly. At that Living Legends Award, she forgot to mention our own Honorable Shamim Clark Hubbard will also be recognized and begin the award. So, congratulations, Alderwoman Clark Hubbard.
Alderwoman from the 7th.
I was going to do the same thing Alderman Aldrich did. Alderwoman Clark Hubbard was being humble, so glad that we've clapped and given her flowers. And I forgot my usual announcement that I'm working on the round of unhoused bills. And where you all want me to, bring me out, invite me, because they're going to come up very, very soon. Check your email so you can see the draft. Let's start those conversations because it's going to come, and I don't want anybody to be like, it was a surprise, she wasn't willing to come in, because I've been saying for almost months now that we need to get started in that process. So I just want to make sure that I extend that invitation. Thank you.
Any further announcements? Any further announcements? I do want to also make note that we do have a Legislation and Rules Committee scheduled for July 23rd at 2 p.m. to take up the recommendations that were sent to us from the Charter Commission, and have scheduled special board meetings at 10 a.m. on August 8th and August 16th, in anticipation of passing those bills to get them onto the November ballot and make that timeline. Any further announcements? Alderman from the 4th.
Just wanted to point out that the 8th is a Thursday, so if you're just on schedule to show up on Fridays, it's not going to work on the 8th.
Yes. Thank you, Alderman. With that, Alderwoman from the 10th, you are recognized. Alderman from the 3rd.
Thank you, Madam President. I just want to also note that next week, Thursday the 18th, we're going to be having a ribbon cutting at Marquette Park at 9:30 a.m. Marquette Park, through the Allies of Marquette Park, which is a community neighborhood-led group, in partnership with myself and other organizations in Dutchtown and with our city parks department, have reinvigorated the park, and really appreciate all of the efforts through planning and whatnot. We will be cutting a ribbon, transforming the old tennis courts into a brand new basketball court and pickleball courts for residents and young people to use in the community. If you don't have it on your calendar, we would love to see you there. Again, that's Thursday, July 18th at 9:30 a.m. Myself and Mayor Jones will be there. And then also, just a reminder for all of the staff and members of the board that we have a little Red and Wild get together after the board meeting over in the LA Cave. Thank you.
Alderwoman from the 6th.
Thank you, Madam President. I just want to announce, I know it's a little less than a month away, that we are having our next Red Tape Committee in conjunction with SLDC. We'll be holding it at the Northside Economic Empowerment Center Thursday, August 4th. The first from 4 to 5, we'll have a meet and greet with business partners that's open to the public, and then we'll go from 5 to 6:30 for a listening session to hear from business owners, and then the last half hour from 6 to 7 will close with networking for businesses who want to talk to folks from SLDC and other business owners.
Any further announcements? Seeing none, Alderwoman from the 10th, you are recognized on the motion to excuse.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. All members were present this morning.
Alderwoman from the 10th, you are recognized on the motion to adjourn.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. I move that we adjourn until Thursday, August 8th, 2024 in the Board of Aldermen chambers.
It's been moved by the Alderwoman from the 10th, seconded by the Alderwoman from the 7th, that we adjourn until Thursday, August 8th, 2024 in the Board of Aldermen chambers. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? No. Motion carries. We are adjourned.